And that's our result. Is how our cake looks like. It is very soft and moist and beautiful. I hope you liked and will bake this recipe soon. We start this amazing recipe adding in our stand mixer the butter, ideally in room temperature, otherwise you're gonna see the batter splitting. So butter and sugar. Brilliant. It's a bit too big for such a small amount. This amazing creamy consistency is the result we are looking for. Now we are going to keep beating and we'll add eggs slowly. So we just it's very important to be patient in this part of the process because especially if you don't have a big quantity, you have to scrape the bottom often. But I have to say, without a stand mixer or even a hand mixer, it's very difficult to reach this consistency. I'd say by hand is going to be very difficult. We have organic eggs and they are very yellow, beautifully yellow. Time to scrape again in order to mix well. Now we have a very creamy cream. So we'll just beat a little bit longer, adding lemon. When we are sure the mixture is creamy and evenly combined, which is the case, we can add the ground almonds. In the beginning, it's going to be a bit like a crumbly, a bit like a porridge, but just to mix really well. The last thing we are going to do is add our baking powder and also make sure it's well combined. I preheated my oven in 170 degrees with ventilation. If you're my student, you know that I always reduce 10 degrees Celsius if I'm using the ventilation. So just a last time and we are good to go. This is one of the recipes of my book that's so far is still only in Portuguese, the printed book, but soon we are going to have an English version. And I already have other recipes in English and other ebooks. Here's my cake tin. Why I'm doing this cake tin? Because the idea, so you can bake as a loaf cake or a higher cake, a smaller one, but I want my cake to be flat because I'm going to cut and serve as like an afternoon tea dessert. So I'm It could be in a greased cake tin and dust with flour, but I think because it's a very delicate cake, in this way I'm sure it's not going to break, it's not going to happen anything when we remove from the cake tin. So brilliant. Now what we do here is to flatten as even as we can. Yes, it makes a difference because so it's going to raise a bit, but the surface is going to be more or less as you make it. We are going to bake something from 25 to 35 minutes, and of course it depends on your cake tin. And not exactly the temperature of your oven, because I believe you are going to use 180 or 170 if with ventilation. So in the same temperature, the same cake, the same amount, of course. In a smaller cake tin, it's going to be higher. The cake might take a little bit longer. This here, I believe it's going to take 25 minutes. And I'm going to leave it to bake, and we'll start to do the frosting just after that. So we are good to go. And here we are with this amazing aroma. Almonds, just delicious, right? Super well baked. It took 25 minutes, as I guessed, because it's just flat. As I said, if you were baking another quantity or using another cake tin in another format, might take a bit longer. I flipped the cake just because this side is really flat and it's going to look very nice in our decoration. How do I do the icing? Maybe not as you are used to see. Here we have the egg whites in room temperature. So the first thing we are going to do is to mix the potato starch with the icing sugar. Of course, ideally we should have a bigger bowl to do it. So, and we are going to whisk the egg whites just with the lemon juice. And how much? So until softer peaks start to form. It's not going to take long. So now some explanations. Why we are using potato starch? Because we don't want the sugar to be very humid. In this way, like starch, just like the potato starch is going to absorb the liquids, and we are going to have the sugar a little bit like lighter, and it changes completely the final results because you don't have the lumps and you don't have this even crumbly appearance. That's actually enough. As I said, just as the egg whites are in soft peak, and then we start adding the sugar. I would say in 3 or 4 goes. So in this way, you'll be able to mix very well. It works with normal sugar, castor sugar. No, because we need it to dissolve a bit, and so we are not going to reach this result with castor sugar. At this point, I said we can do it in 3 or 4 goes. I have half of the sugar now and already have this very nice consistency. Hope you can see from there. If you are doing this icing to paint some cookies or for cupcakes or something like that, some preparation that you need more another color, that's the moment I would say once you add the second go or the third go, I would add the food coloring at this point. So now we can switch to the Marie's. It's actually quite easy to do. But chef is going to be very thick, yes. If you need, it depends on the preparation. This is just the ideal. If you need it to be a little lighter or more liquid, just add a bit of water. It depends on the preparation. You can also add the lemon juice. Here for what we need, it's quite good. Remember the icing dries quickly, so then you should use, it's actually a little bit too thick. You should prepare and use right away. Do I need a piping bag to apply on top of my cake? No. You can do it with a spoon, with a palette knife, as per quantity. Is a question of taste. And of course, if it's too liquid, you just add a little bit more of the sugar. We have the perfect consistency right now. And if you have some leftover, just keep in an airtight container and you'll be able to use later. You can also make some dripping, which also looks very nice. A little bit on the other side. As you can see, to reach the right consistency is everything, because you can get this beautiful effect. And also the dripping. It's brilliant. I'm gonna show you inside.